forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack making backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the Vato speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews, how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby Maine. Just caught a touchdown from the Bay.
That's right. For those who don't know, I raised Pac. Pac is my son.
My stepfather at the time, Mutulu Shakur, he was also like a well-known revolutionary.
Good evening. Echoes of the violent radical underground of the 1960s rolled over the New York suburb of Nanuet today in the botched ambush of an armored car that left one guard and 2 policemen dead. Among the 4 suspects arrested was Catherine Boudin, a fugitive since March 6, 1970, when she reportedly fled naked from the flaming ruins of a Greenwich Village townhouse turned bomb factory. David Culhane reports.
The names of the suspects at first carried no special meaning. Police in a suburban town north of New York City booked 2 men and 2 women on charges of armed robbery and the killing of 2 policemen and a Brink's truck guard. Authorities thought they had simply captured a group of well-armed thieves who failed in their attempt to get away with $1.6 million in receipts from a crowded shopping mall. The shootings took place when police stopped a U-Haul van at a roadblock.
As soon as they opened up the door to the U-Haul, the shots just started being fired. I saw a policeman fall.
There was a firefight going on, and I'll use firefight because I was in Vietnam, and that's what I'm accustomed to.
Off-duty New York corrections officer Michael Koch grabbed a woman who later said her name was Barbara Edson.
I see an officer go down. She's running. She runs up to me. She yells, I didn't shoot him. He did. I know she's one of them.
Prosecutors said that Barbara Edson is in fact Kathy Boudin, a 38-year-old member of the radical Weather Underground. She has been a fugitive for 11 years. Kathy Boudin fled from the scene of a 1970 explosion that destroyed an elegant New York townhouse, killing 3 other members of the Weather Underground. Police said the building was being used as a bomb factory. Like so many of the Weather people, Kathy Boudin came from an affluent middle-class family. She was a magna cum laude graduate of Bryn Mawr, intelligent, idealistic, and attractive, but then finally an advocate of violent revolution. Her father is Leonard Boudin, a prominent lawyer for left-wing causes and a one-time lecturer at Harvard. He and his wife visited their daughter today.
We had a long personal discussion, and we are going to defend her as well as we can in court.
Police are still searching the area of the robbery, and they said that in an apartment in New Jersey used by the suspects, they found a bomb-making manual, automatic weapons, and floor plans of New York City police stations.
They were clearly prepared to kill police officers or anybody else who stood in their way, and I think you just have to accept those facts. I'm not sure that it's appropriate at this stage of the investigation to engage in speculation as to what it means.
Local police and the FBI say they believe at least one more of those in custody is also a member of the Weather Underground, and they are still looking for as many as 4 other suspects. David Culhane, CBS News, New York.
Try to make a difference from where we are. But outside of that, we have finally got men in here who feel like taking responsibility. And one of the responsibilities that we want to take is that the rap game is seemingly trying to set the tone for the hustling game. And for the hustling game, the hustlers is letting the rap game set the tone for the hustling game. And then they set the tone for the struggle and for which way black people or new African people or people who are oppressed all over the world are affected. And so in order for us to have impact on resistance and upping our quality of life, we have to confront what role the rap game is playing in the game of the resistance. And so I think that this here, this workshop that we have behind enemy lines talks about how the rap game's affected the hustle game. I think once you elaborate on that there is no division really from the street to the resistance. You know what I mean? You know, like our history in terms of that. You know what I'm saying? When we started out, this is my cousin. When we started out, he was always a gangster, and I was always in the resistance. And we never had no contradictions. There was rules of engagements out there on the streets for us and for them. And anytime anybody violated, we collaborated on responding to that. So you might think it was coming from the hustler, and it was coming from the resistance. In the same way, when we was being pressed, and they thought it was coming from the resistance, the hustlers was taking care of the business for them. See, and it was always been like that. And now the hustlers is taking leadership from rappers, and that kind of confusing to real confusing. People who've been down 20, 25 years like we have been down. We don't understand how somebody could sing and dance and then don't have no responsibility to the community and allow women and children to be disrespected, allow outside influences to come in our community and disrespect us, and allow snitching to run rampant like a pandemic. And so many of us is in jail today because of the breakdown in principles and moral character in our crews, in our community, and in our own spirit. So what we got to do here, and one of the beginning steps, is trying to make this prison institution open for outside the rappers who are serious, like these brothers from Black Hand. You see, like the brothers out of Oakland, you know, and in LA, Chicago, you know, who are trying to say something different. Let's come in and compare notes. Let's analyze what role, you know, we can have on making the industry put 20% of those raps on TV and on the radio have some kind of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. You know, let's go on to remember when we was collaborating on the code. So we wanted to get into that from the beginning when Pop was here.
There's a lot of distortion about that thug code, and I can see why the enemy is dealing off of that. The thug code was evolved because at the time, in 1994, Congress was putting into the 1994 Terrorist Act or something like that, and they were putting on mandatory sentences for all people connected to the crack cocaine trade, right? And in Lewisburg, in Longpaw, in Leavenworth, in Marion, and the like, there was a group of hustlers, Stevie Monsanto, Hoover, what's the brother's name out of California, out of BGF, Doc Holliday, Doc Holliday, you know, Frank James, P.D. Rolock, Pistol Pete's father, rapper dudes, rapper hustlers out of Baltimore and D.C. At that time, Rayford was cool, but you know, he turned on. He turned on. But anyway, we all got together and we started struggling about what our responsibility is to that scene.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb. We on our way to Baltimore with it. But we really ain't gonna stay that long. We're gonna set the stage in Jamaica, Queens. Now, today we got a special subject for you guys, and it's a person that some of you guys might be familiar with. And I'm sure a lot of people don't know the person that we're going to be talking about. And I definitely feel like it's somebody that should be covered. And the person that I'm talking about today is going to be a guy by the name of Mutulu Shakur. Now, I did mention earlier that some might be familiar with him, and I'm sure most of the people that are familiar with him is going to be because of his iconic last name and his even more iconic stepson, Tupac Shakur. But before Tupac made a name for himself, the man that essentially raised him really made a name for himself in the black struggle during the time when the Black Panthers were very, very active. He was actually associated or closely associated with a group that went by the name of the BLA, or the Black Liberation Army. Now, the thing about this particular organization with the Black Panthers, a lot of times I think it was mainly African American. I can't think of one person that was a prominent figure within the Black Panthers. Now, I do remember them having like people of different race speak on behalf of the Black Panthers, but a lot of times when you think of them, you're going to think of Bobby Seale, you're going to think of guys like Huey P. Newton, Stokely Carmichael. But one thing I noticed about the Black Liberation Army, it was very, very different because it was people of different races. And from what I noticed, a lot of the people that were not African American came from high society. So they were college graduates and their families were people of importance in society. And another difference that I would say is this group was a little more active and more violent, if you asked me, because some of the acts that they would go on to be accused of and end up being known for is quite different from what the Black Panthers went through. When you think of the Black Panthers, a lot of times you'll think of like the food program. You think of them kind of policing the neighborhoods from police, kind of things along those lines. So it's almost like Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X type of stance, where it was a situation where they both stood for the same thing, but they went about it two different ways. Now, Mutulu Shakur is currently and has been locked up for the last 30 plus years, serving time for his role in the 1981 Brink truck robbery that netted the gang $1.6 million, but would ultimately cost two police officers their lives. One, a guy by the name of Edward O'Grady, and another guy by the name of Waverly Brown, who just happened to be the first black member of the Nyack Police Department. Now, like I said, the movement that he was affiliated with, the police department or the government considered them to be terrorists because not long before the 1981 Brinks robbery, they were involved with an explosion that happened at a house in Greenwich Village where a townhouse was pretty much destroyed and several members of the group would end up dying. So this was a very, very, very active organization. Now, after the robbery of the Brinks truck, it wouldn't be long before police would finger the Black Liberation Army. And at that time, a lot of the people that was associated with the Brinks truck robbery would begin to be arrested. Now, Mutulu Shakur would be one of the last people, and he would hold out. It would be about 6 years before the authorities would catch up with him. They would actually end up charging him with the RICO Act while he was still at large. Now, after his capture in February of 1986, the government would put him on trial and label him as the ringleader of that Brinks bank robbery, and he would essentially be sentenced to 60 years in prison, which in my eyes is essentially a life sentence. And I want to even go further and say that he's probably one of the last, if not the only remaining political prisoners that we have in the United States. Now, as far as an update is concerned on Mutulu Shakur, like I said, he's still in prison, still serving his time. I did see as of July 21st, 2022, according to NBC News, he was in the process of trying to get an early release or a compassionate release because I seen where he was dealing with several health issues, most notably stage 3 multiple myeloma, which is a blood cancer that can infect the bones and kidneys. Doctors would go on even further, just giving him 6 months to live. So just me personally, I do hope he is able to get that release that he's looking for. Like I said earlier, this is normally a subject or an individual that I wouldn't cover. But the more I read into a story, the more I think that these stories do need to be told because they really just don't make dudes like this anymore. Y'all know what it is with me. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Y'all hit the red subscribe right under this video so y'all know when it's real trill spill shit is dropping. Y'all make sure y'all get in the comment box below. Flood that bitch. Let me know what cities we need to go to, where we haven't been, what gangsters we missed, what we got wrong, all that shit. And let's be honest, y'all already know what it is with me. It's your boy Pop. Mobb, Mobb, Mobb.